all think. Does not matter what time it is, because time is a construct that we created. And right now, it's the perfect time because you asked for this to happen, so here we are. So, we want to talk about the concrete cage today and how we have, how we have forgotten the land, the body, and our original rhythm. You know, welcome in, everyone. Welcome here. And this morning, I want to speak to you about the part that knows something is off. I want to talk to the part of you that knows and senses that something's been kind of a little quirky. Not because you're crazy at all, and not because you are even broken, and not because you are weak. No, but because there is something inside of you that remembers a different rhythm, different beat, different hum. A rhythm before the noise, a rhythm before the constant fear, a rhythm before the screens, a rhythm before every second of the day became a demand for your attention. A rhythm before we were taught that success means exhaustion. A rhythm before we were taught that worth means productivity. A rhythm before we were trained to consume instead of create. And a rhythm before humanity forgot the land. And this morning, we are going to talk about what I call the concrete cage. I call the concrete cage not because cities are evil, not because technology is automatically evil, not because hospitals, doctors, schools, phones, medicine, or modern life are the enemy, but because somewhere along the way, we began to mistake a loud, artificial, rushed, disconnected way of living for normal. We began to accept stress as normal. We began to accept exhaustion as normal. And we began to accept disconnect as normal. And we began to accept being disconnected from the body as normal. And we began to accept living under artificial lights and staring at screens and inhaling fear and hearing ourselves think as normal. And then we wonder why people feel lost. We wonder why people feel anxious, and we wonder why people cannot sleep, and we wonder why people cannot sit in silence. We wonder why people do not know who they are. But the body knows. You see, the body knows, the body remembers, the nervous system remembers, and the land remembers, and something in you remembers too. So take a breath. Feel your body where you are. Feel your feet on the floor if you can. Feel the chair underneath you. Feel the breath entering your lungs, and say quietly, I am willing to return to what is real. And again, I am willing to return to what is real. The world has become very loud, and we wake up and reach for a screen, because we have spoken to ourselves. We have allowed hundreds of voices into our own minds. News, messages, advertisement, opinions, agreements, arguments, fear, comparison, images of people living lives we think are supposed to have. And we scroll before we breathe even. We compare before we become present, and we consume before we ask what our own soul needs right now. And then we carry the world's noise inside our bodies all day. Oh, we wonder why the mind is racing. We wonder why we are tense even. And we wonder why the body cannot rest. You see, the nervous system was never designed to carry the entire world's fear every freaking morning before breakfast. But yet we do it to ourselves by looking at the screens, seeing our dings, seeing what the world's saying. And the nervous system needs rhythm. It needs rest. It needs safety. It needs real connection. It needs food. It needs water. It needs sunlight. And it needs movement. And it needs silence. It needs moments when the body is not being told that everything is urgent. And this is what I mean when I say we have become disconnected from original design. Original design is not some fantasy that says life will never be hard. Original design is not pretending we do not need medicines, doctors, community, technology, education, or support. Original design is remembering that we are living beings. We are not machines. We are not products. We are not content. We are not just consumers. We are not just here to work, buy, scroll, compare, and die. We are here to live. We are here to feel. We are here to connect. We are here to create. We are here to become conscious. We are here to return to the truth. Life is not meant to be lived entirely through fear. And the land has always known this. The land does not panic even. The rivers does not rush because someone told it, become more productive now. Would you go get a job, Mr. River? The tree does not hate itself because it does not look like another tree. The seed does not compare itself to the forest. The flower does not ask permission to bloom. It just blooms. And the ocean does not need followers. Nature simply participates in life. And when we are in nature, something often changes in the deeper in us, in the breath that deepens for us. The body begins to soften and the mind starts to quiet and the eyes begin to see again. And the nervous system remembers that not everything is an urgency. Research continues to show that time around green space, trees, water, parks, gardens, and natural environments can support mental health, attention, stress reduction, sleep, movement, and overall well-being. Nature does not replace care when someone needs help, but it can become part of how we return to regulation and connection. So when doctors, therapists, psychologists, and healers tell people, go outside, take a walk, touch the earth, sit under a tree, or spend time near it. Hi, how's it going? Thanks. What it is not, because nature is not just a cute decoration, it is because the body actually is affected by the environment. The body responds to the light and it responds to rhythm. It responds to sound, and the body responds to movement, and the body responds to whether it feels rushed or safe. The body responds to whether it is surrounded by concrete alarms, traffic screens, fear, and noise, or whether it is allowed to just breathe. And this doesn't mean everyone can simply leave the city. I get it. This doesn't mean everyone has access to forests, deserts, oceans, or mountains, but it does mean we can begin where we are. Thank you. So maybe we can begin by opening a window and standing in the light, touching a plant, walk around the block, look at the sky, sit near a tree, feel the wind, put your bare feet in the ground if that is safe and available to you. Drink water slowly, turn the noise down. These are not small things. These are ways of telling your nervous system you are allowed to become home. You know, humanity has been trained to believe that what is visible is the only thing that is real. We've been trained to believe that if we cannot measure it, buy it, hold it, prove it, or put it in a box, that it has no value. But see, your inner life is very real. Your breath is real. Your grief is real, and your dreams are real, and your intuition is real, and your nervous system is real, and your consciousness is real. Your relationship with land is real, and your connection to people is real. We may not have all the scientific answers, every mystery of consciousness, life, death, and universe, and we do not need to pretend that science is got all the answers, but we've been noticing, and science has been noticing, that we're in a holographic simulation. Information in space and time. That the physical world is fake, or humanity is trapped inside a computer-like prison. And the internal kingdom is the way out. See, the matrix is what we call that. People can become trapped inside a world of condition, a world where fear becomes normal, a world where consumption becomes identity, a world where people stop asking questions, a world where silence becomes uncomfortable, a world where people are trained to believe that the outside world has more authority than their own inner truth. That's the shadow matrix. It's a pattern of fear, a pattern of distraction, a pattern of separation, a pattern that tells you you are not enough. You need more. You need someone else to tell you who you are. You have to fear the future. You have to fear death. You have to fear your body. You have to fear being alone. You have to fear being different. You have to fear asking questions. But every time you return to your body, the body spell weakens. Every time you take a breath before reacting, the spell weakens. Every time you sit in silence without reacting or for distraction, the spell weakens. Every time you remember the land, the spell weakens. Every time you choose love over fear, the spell weakens. Every time you see in the mirror, I am that I am, the spell weakens. Every time you stop treating another human being as an enemy, the spell weakens. And every time you stop handing over your worth out of the outside the world, the spell weakens. The world may be loud, but the truth inside you is still here. The world may be afraid, but fear does not have to become your identity. The world may be divided, but you do not have to carry division in your heart. I want to talk about the people society has called broken, because they're not. The people that have been labeled, the people we have underestimated, the people we have tried to force into one narrow definition of normal. For more than 50 years, I have watched humanity closely. I have worked with people who were given labels. I have coached with Special Olympics. My own sister had special needs, and I have seen something that changed the way I see the world. I have watched people that society often overlooks carry honesty, direction, presence, loyalty, joy, and truth in ways that our performance-driven culture often trains out of people. I have seen people name the things in the room that everyone else was avoiding. I've seen people refuse to pretend. I've seen people who were dismissed as less than bring more heart into a room than the people who were supposedly more successful, more educated, and more powerful or more normal. And I am not saying every disabled person is here to become a healer, a prophet, a shaman, or a spiritual symbol. No one has to prove a special gift in order to deserve love, but no one has to be extraordinary in order to deserve dignity. And no one has to become inspirational in order to belong. People have real support needs. People deserve accessibility. People deserve medical care. People deserve safety. People deserve communication, support, and people deserve community. But I am asking a question. What if the real problem is not the person who communicates differently? What if the real problem is a world that only values a person when they can perform in one approved way? What if the real disability is a society that cannot slow down? A society that cannot make room for differences? A society that cannot tolerate honesty? A society that needs everyone to mask, pretend, consume, compete, and fit inside the box? What if some are not here to fit the system because the system itself is what needs to be questioned? There are cultures and traditions throughout history that have not always understood differences through the same narrow lens that modern society often uses. And some indigenous communities have understood bodily and cognitive differences through relationship, community role, spirituality, and reciprocity, rather than only through a medical label. And these traditions are diverse, we should not flatten them into one history, but they remind us that disability is not an experience in the same way. And that matters, because it tells us that the way we see a person is not always the truth of who they are. A label can describe a support need, but a label cannot describe a soul. A diagnosis can guide care, but a diagnosis cannot measure a person's sacredness at all. A test can identify challenges, but a test cannot decide who belongs. A society that forgot how to see humanity will always try to reduce a person to what they cannot do. But an awakening asks a different question. Who are you beyond what the world measured? Maybe the people who see differently, feel differently, communicate differently, and move differently are reminded us that there was never only one right way to be human. I know this personally, through illness too. I survived 2 brain tumors and many other conditions, and I will never tell anyone sickness is simple. I will never tell someone in pain that they should be grateful for the suffering. I will never tell anyone to ignore doctors, treatments, medicines, support, or care. Pain is real. Bodies need care. People deserve help, but I can tell the truth of my life. Surviving brought me inward. It made me look beneath the surface. It made me face the fear I had carried. And it made me reach towards parts of my humanity I may never have discovered any other way. It made me ask these questions. Who am I when the things I thought made me secure are no longer secure? And perhaps that is the yin and the yang, not that suffered is good, that not that sickness is punishment, not that every hardship was chosen, but that even through pain, something can awaken, compassion can awaken, courage can awaken, humility can awaken, truth can awaken, and the heart can awaken. You can go through something terrible and still discover something true inside yourself. Not because the pain was deserved, not because the human spirit is capable of meeting pain and becoming deeper, not harder. That is what I have learned. And that is why I refuse to see human beings only through the lens of what is wrong with them. Because sometimes the very wound that brought someone to their knees becomes the place where they finally meet themselves. Sometimes the crisis becomes a doorway. Sometimes the body becomes the teacher. Sometimes the things we tried to hide becomes the place from which we finally speak. Now, I'll come back to frequencies. Everything around us affects us. Sound affects us. Music affects us. A voice can calm us. A voice can alarm us. A song can bring us back to memories. A loud room can overwhelm us. A peaceful environment can soften. The light can affect us. Sunlight can affect sleep, mood, and daily rhythm. Artificial light late at night can keep a body awake. Movement affects us. Stillness affects us. And the people around us, affect us. And fear spreads through a room. Calm spreads through a room. Tension spreads through a room. Safety spreads through a family. And we are always influencing one another, not through magic. Not because one person has power over everyone else, but because human beings are relational. And we notice facial expressions and we hear tone. We mirror emotions and we respond to stress. We respond to kindness. We respond to safety. And that means we have responsibilities. What are we feeding? What are we saying? What are we repeating? What are we allowing into our bodies every day? What are we watching? What are we listening to? What are we believing? What are we teaching the children around us? Are we teaching them fear? Are we teaching them that they are not enough? Are we teaching them that they have to fit in? Or are we teaching them presence, truth, compassion, connection? Or are we teaching them to be afraid of the differences? Or are we teaching them that difference belongs? This is where the real shift happens, not by pretending the world is not hard, but by choosing not to recreate the same fear inside our homes, our bodies, our communities, and our minds. So this morning, I want to bring you back to the original rhythm. Not some perfect fantasy, not a life without pain, not a life without responsibility, but a rhythm beneath the noise, a rhythm beneath the breath, a rhythm of sunlight, a rhythm of water, a rhythm of rest, a rhythm of grief and joy, a rhythm of a season, or the rhythm of planting and letting go, the rhythm of community, the rhythm of truth, the rhythm of simply being alive. So just put your hands on your heart and take a slow breath with me. And breathe it out again. And just say, I release the need to live in constant fear. I release the need to live in constant fear. I release the need to prove my worth through performance. I release the belief that I am disconnected from life. And I return to my body, and I return to my breath, and I return to the land, and I return to truth. I return to compassion. I return to my original rhythm. So you don't have to solve the world this morning, or whatever time it is where you're at. You don't have to fight every battle, but you can remember You can remember that you are not a machine. You can remember that you are not here to only consume. You can remember that you are not your diagnosis. You can remember that you are not your trauma. You can remember that you are not the fear the world taught you. You can remember that difference is not failure. You can remember that nature is still speaking. You can remember that the body is still trying to bring you home. You can remember that the world may be loud, but truth is still here. The land remembers, the body remembers, the breath remembers, and you can remember too. It's time to come home. So let's not forget that. Peace and love. We'll see you guys tomorrow.